All right, good morning. My name's Larry Nunley. I'm with Keith Zars Pool Service Department, and I do a lot of our pool startups and pool schools. Today, we're going to cover pool schools for new owners. I'd like to thank Anne Marie and Bryant Marquette for letting us use their pool today. So let's get started. If you've never had a pool before, you'll learn a lot of new stuff. If you have, well, we'll rehash some things that you already know. But first, we want to start off with the basic pool circulation. Here in the pool, we have skimmers on the side of the pools, the openings in the tile lines. This is where water is being drawn in from the pump. It is also pulling water from our main drain down at the deep end of the pool. The water goes through the pump, through our filtration system. Some of the water goes back to the spa, so you have the spillover. The rest of the water goes back to the pool. Right now, we're in pool mode, and no water is being sucked from our spa main drain. That will only occur when we go into spa mode. This first couple of weeks with the pool, you will be doing a lot of brushing. As the plaster cures, it forms plaster dust, and we need to have that removed from the pool. All right, when we're brushing down the pool, we want to hit everywhere that we've got new plaster. You don't have to break your back doing it, just like you're pushing a push broom in the garage. But everywhere you've got plaster, you want to brush down. I'll typically tell you to do the sides of the pool, go around the perimeter, and then come back to the shallow end of the pool, push everything down to the main drain. When you brush down the spa, I'll show you how to use your app to go into spa mode. You'll brush the spa down in spa mode. That way the main drain is working in the spa and will clear out the debris that we are brushing down. The brushing we're going to have you do for the first 10 to 12 days as the plaster is curing. Well, we also mentioned brushing down the spa. Right now we're in pool mode and I've got no suction coming through the spa, so it doesn't do us any good to brush it down. What we'll do is you'll go to your phone, you'll go to the app, and you'll go to spa mode, which will kick our pump up to a higher speed. It will turn some valves back over the equipment. We'll look at that in a little bit, but you'll see the action starting on the spa now. The bubbles will get stronger as the valves turn and we get full flow in the spa. At the top railing on both sides, we've got brass venturis. This is where our spa jets have air drawn in for the bubbles in your jets. So if you don't want any bubbles, you just simply close those down. This controls these three. That control over there controls the 5 jets on the opposite side. You can keep them turned down if you're brushing down the spa. It's just easier to see. Or if you're actually going to use the hot tub in cold weather, I like to keep them closed as the spa is heating up. And then once I get into the spa, I'll crack those open to get the bubbles going. One of your main functions to do as a new pool owner will be to keep organic matter out of the pool, mainly leaves and grass. You're going to check your skimmers at least once a week. There'll be times during the year when the oaks are dropping that you'll be checking these things every day. Our skimmers have a loosely threaded white ring that holds our pre-filter bags in place, along with our rigid backup baskets. So you just simply dump these things out. You can rinse them out if you like, throw them back in and reseat them, and then reseat the threaded ring. Most of our pools will have 2 skimmers. Our smaller ones will just have 1. On this pool, it's a little bit larger, so we'll go check our other skimmer, because next to the skimmer, we've got another pre-filter that filters anything that makes it through the main drain of the pool. Skimmer number 2. And on the other side, we've got the main drain pre-filter. It's a little bit different. We've got a solid cover with a collar on it, like this. Bag sits down a little deeper. This is everything that's made it through the main drain of the swimming pool. This one you'll check on average about once a month. This pool has a Polaris automatic pool cleaner, so it catches most of the debris itself, and we don't get a lot of debris in the main drain pre-filter. Some pools will have in-floor systems with pop-up heads that direct a lot of the debris to the main drain. So on those pools, we'll clean the main drain pre-filter weekly. Also on the main drain, if you come over here and look on the side here, come back behind me. This is the location of our autofill line, very similar to a toilet float. So as the water evaporates or gets splashed out of the pool, this will fill the pool automatically. It's a very good benefit, especially if you travel a lot and you're not here to keep the appropriate pool water level up to the tile. That's one thing we do want to touch on, is the water line in the pool always needs to be in our 6-inch tile band. If the water gets too low, it's possible that the skimmers could suck air and the pumps run dry. But with having the autofill line in place, we don't have to worry about that anymore. All right, this is one of our standard equipment pads. It's automated, as are most of our pools. We use Jandy Aqualink and Jandy products. If we move over this way, we've got our control panel here. We'll get into that in just a little bit. We've got our filtration pump down low. Next is our diatomaceous or DE filter. We've got a small booster pump down here for our Polaris. Our chlorinator where we'll put our chlorine tablets, and of course our heater for either heating the pool or the spa. All right, right now we are in pool mode. Our pump is running at a low RPM and our valves are set for everyday operation. Our circulation pump here is pulling water this way from the pool. We label all our pipes so you know where the water's coming and going from. I've got automatic valves here and over here that will control the flow between the pool and the spa when we change those modes. But right now we're in pool mode. Our automatic valve right now is blocking the spa, and we're pulling water this way. These two lines are our two skimmers that we looked at already. This line is our main drain. Water's coming up this way. Now, we don't get a lot of debris in our pump baskets because of the way Keith has designed our skimmers and main drains and those pre-filter bags over at the pool. Really cuts down on how much work you have to do over here at the equipment area. Another thing I want to touch base on, you're going to come over here weekly on average. I want you to make sure that the slab is staying dry, unless it's been raining or your sprinklers have been going, but the slab should always be dry. And if you see any water underneath any of the pieces of equipment, you let us know so we can come out there and address the leak. If we're maintaining the pool with our own weekly service, our guys will keep an eye on this area and do everything that we're getting ready to do. So as the water comes this way from the pool, anything that makes it by those pre-filter bags large enough will be caught in our pump basket. The water continues to travel around this way into our diatomaceous earth filter. The water comes out of the filter into the heater and then comes back to either the pool or the spa, or in this case, the bubblers that are on the sun shelf. Now, your main maintenance that you're going to do out here is you're going to clean the pump basket, or you're going to add chlorine tablets in the chlorinator. Our chlorinator has a control valve. It goes from an off position up to a number 5, and this just simply regulates how much water is going through the chlorinator and how much chlorine is getting to the pool. You'll adjust that several times throughout the year based on your test kit results. The number will be lower in the wintertime. The water's colder, our bather loads are less, so we don't need as much chlorine. As we start heating up and the bather load increases, you're using the pool more often, you're going to have a need for more chlorine, and you'll adjust it through that control valve on the chlorinator. All right, now we'll open up all this stuff. We'll do the maintenance as we go through this program. Over here on our heater, all of this is going to be controlled through the app and through the panel over here. We have the heater set up already to where we want to see a couple of things on this main screen. It's going to show remote thermostat enabled, which means our panel is controlling everything. And it's going to show us current water temperatures and a preset high temperature of 104. You'll control the temperatures through the app. If anybody comes over here and changes this 104, say down to 100, but you want 102, it's only going to go through to 100. All right, so we typically leave this one maxed out at the 104. Can't get any hotter than that. Now this is a heater that's used in pools that don't have automation as well, and people come over here and either use a pool thermostat or a spa thermostat. All of our jobs are automated, and we run our communication cables all the time to this spa side thermostat, whether you had a spa or not, just so every job is the same for all our electricians, all our service technicians. If somebody comes and presses this button, it puts the heater in an off position. It's not coming on for any reason. And the screen says press pool or spa thermostats. Well, we're always going to press the spa side thermostat. Whether you have a spa or not, that's where you want to put it. All right, then we're back into automated control. If the heater doesn't light up for any reason, it's self-diagnostic, and it'll give you a code that you can tell us when you call us to let us know that there's a problem with the heater. Now, I'm also going to show you how to operate the system if your Wi-Fi goes down, because you can still do that manually here at the panel. Now, if your Wi-Fi goes down and you're not doing anything out at the pool, everything will stay in its regular programming. But if you've got company, they want the bells and whistles, the lights, the spas, you can still do everything manually over here at the panel. Get that out of the way. We've got all our breakers here inside the panel. Everything is labeled. If there's something that's not working, always come check your breakers first. Probably the most common phone call we get is our pool lights aren't working. Perhaps maybe after a storm's passed through. If you call the office and tell them that the lights aren't working, we're pretty good about asking you to come and check this breaker before we send anybody out. But you just simply turn the breaker off to reset it and then turn it back on. And depending on what your equipment rack looks like, you could have this many breakers, you could have a few more, and they'll all be labeled for you. Now, our control panel up here, this is where we go if you're going to do any maintenance over here, or if your Wi-Fi is down and you're entertaining. All right. Right now, the system is in auto mode. In auto mode, all my labeled buttons are inactive. They don't do anything because everything's controlled with the app. But let's say I'm entertaining and our Wi-Fi goes down. I'm going to come to the panel. I'm going to change it from auto. I'm going to hit this button once to go in a service mode. That turns everything off here at the equipment. And your app now, if we try to access the device, it will tell you that the system is in service mode. That way, well, mainly if you're out here doing weekly maintenance, somebody inside the house can't turn everything on and off while you've got your hands inside the equipment. But for right now, let's say we're entertaining, we've got company, my Wi-Fi's down, I'm going to operate everything here at the panel. So I put it in service mode. I'm going to come to this next button marked filter pump, turn on the pump, because we've got to have that water movement. In service mode, the pump is going to run at a much higher RPM, similar to the speed used for operating the spa. So you probably can hear the difference in the sound right now. The next button we've got is the cleaner, which is for your automatic pool cleaner. If I'm entertaining, we're probably not going to be running the cleaner. All right, but If I turn on my pool light, my spa light, a lot of times these days we've got people with the multicolor lights. Here we would just simply go on, off, on, off, on, off to cycle through your 12 or 13 different options you've got for your pool lights. If you've just got the simple white lights or just the blue lights, you'll just turn them on or off. All right. If I want to operate my water feature, I'm going to hit that button. That's going to turn around and activate this automatic valve, which is now going to feed water to our bubblers. And the nice thing about this app or this system is we can control the speeds of the pump with our phone. So if we want the bubblers higher or shorter, we don't have to come over here. We can simply do it on the app. Now, if we want to hot tub, we go to the far end of the paddle or the panel and it says pool mode. We're going to hit this button once to go into spa mode. At this point, we've got my suction side valve changing. It's going to open up the spa suction and close off all suction from the pool. And then on my return valve, it's turning and it's going to send the water from the pool to the spa. That way we're isolating just the spa. The spillover is going to stop. In this case, their water features, the bubblers, are tied into the pool return, so they're going to go away when we go into spa mode. At this point, we'd come back to the panel. We'd hit our heater button. That's going to signal to the heater for the heater to come on. Now, the heater doesn't have a standard pilot light. It's got electronic spark ignition, so we've got an igniter in there that's starting to glow, and it's going to get hot, and in about 20-25 seconds, the heater will come on. These days, our size of our spas, I'd say it probably takes between 20 to 40 minutes to heat up the spa to the temperature you want based on our current water temperature and our nighttime lows. Your automatic pool cleaner. If it was to be running in the pool and you went into spa mode, the pool cleaner would cut off automatically because we're cutting off its water supply over here at the equipment. It's a built-in safety so that that pump doesn't run dry. When I'm in service mode like this, that built-in safety is gone. So one thing I really want you to remember if you have to operate the system in service mode is you never run the cleaner at the same time you're using the hot tub because you will burn up the pump that drives the pool cleaner. Now, if your Wi-Fi comes back or the party is over, you need to put the system back into auto mode. It will stay in service forever until you take it out of there. If I hit this button one time, it goes down to a point that's marked timeout. Timeout is just like service, but it only lasts for 3 hours. And this is typically used by our weekly pool service. They come here, they want everything running on full speed, all the water features open, they add their chemicals, they do their work, and then they leave to the next job. But during that 3-hour time, you will not have access to the app, just like when the system is in service. Hit it one more time to take it out of timeout to go back into auto. And when I do that, everything that I turned on will turn off and go back to its regular programming. So our valves are turning back to normal pool mode operation. Our lights have turned off. Our cleaner is turned off if it was on. The heater is shut off. And you'll have control through the phone once more. All right. So we're going to do our regular maintenance over here at the equipment filter, at the equipment pad. We're going to clean our pump basket. I'll show you how to operate your chlorinator, and I will show you how to backwash your diatomaceous earth filter. And we'll talk a little bit more in depth about the filter as well as our ozonator here on the back of the rack. We use ozone in our systems as a supplement for the chlorinator. It's more of a bactericide. It helps us use a little bit less chlorine. It's something that Keith has been doing for many, many years. You're going to come out here, make sure the slab is dry. We want to empty our pump basket or add chlorine tablets if needed. So what we're going to do is come over to the panel and put it in service mode once again. All right, that will keep anybody from inside the house from turning things on and off. So working down the line, cleaning the pump basket, our lids are basically just twist and lock. All right, I'll grab the left-hand side, give it a pull, bump the other side, open it up. I've got a seal underneath this lid, and it sits on top of this lip of the pump basket, so we always want to make sure there's no debris on there when we're putting the lid back on. Take out the basket, get rid of the leaves. If it's real bad, you can take it to the hose and rinse it off if you like, but otherwise, this is fine. This opening in the basket lines up with the pipe leading into the pump, and this little notch here catches a ridge at the back of the pump basket, so it's pretty hard to put the basket in incorrectly. So we'll put that down in there, make sure it's seated flush, put the lid bag on, start about 8 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Where are we at? All right, obviously we'll have to edit that one. All right, so when we put the lid back on, line up about 8 o'clock, 2 o'clock, twist back over. If I'm going to add chlorine tablets to the chlorinator, just simply unthread the lid. I've got an O-ring under this lid as well. We would then drop in our chlorine tablets. In the wintertime, we're typically only going to use 1 tablet. We don't have a big demand for it. In the summertime, we'll put in maybe 3 or 4 tablets depending on the size of the pool. Now, one thing that I go over with customers about chlorine tablets is there's a chemical built into the tablet called cyanuric acid. It's a sunscreen for the chlorine. It keeps the UV rays from breaking down the chlorine in the pool. Through the use of tablets, that cyanuric acid level will typically always increase. We'll get some rain. The rain will go through our automatic overflow. It will lower the cyanuric acid somewhat, but basically it's always going up through the use of chlorine tablets. Now, if that cyanuric acid level gets too high, it actually starts locking up your chlorine, and it can give us false readings on one of the tests that we'll be doing shortly, where we're determining whether the water is acidic or not. And our test might say that everything is fine, but if I don't know that I've got a high cyanuric acid level, that test is actually much lower. The water is corrosive, aggressive. It can damage the plaster over the time, or it could damage your pool equipment. If you're part of the lifestyle protection plan, our yearly warranty plan, we'll be out at least 3 times a year doing inspections. We'll always monitor that, let you know when it gets too high. If it does, we're going to have to do a partial drain of the pool, or perhaps drain the pool completely and refill it. After cleaning our pump basket or adding our chlorine tablets, that's typically our most common things we're going to have to do. And at this point, we would just simply come back over to the panel, take the system from service mode back into auto. The pump will start up on high speed and run on high speed for 3 minutes to make sure that the pump gets reprimed. And at that point, you just simply walk away and you're done with that part of the maintenance. As you can see, the pump is priming up quickly on this one. Pump basket's already full of water. This is a good time to look at the pressure gauge on your filter. We're concerned with this pressure gauge when our pump is running in high speed. Right now, this filter is reading at about 16 pounds per square inch. And we mark it with this device up here. We line up this clean arrow indicator with the needle of the pressure gauge when we're in this high speed. And this is when we are concerned with the pressure of the filter, and that ties into cleaning the filter as well. Now when the pressure, or I'm sorry, when the pump goes back down to its lower speed, that pressure will drop substantially. I don't really care about that. We monitor the pressure in the high speed. Your main indicator of knowing that your filter is dirty, besides coming out here looking at the filter, is the spillways of your spa. As the water is spilling out of the spa, if the filter gets dirty, that spill will become weaker and weaker. And if the filter's real dirty, it'll stop spilling out of the spa completely. And again, that's your indicator it's time to clean the filter. Now, the filter is called a diatomaceous earth filter. I've got 8 30-inch grids inside of there. They're skinned, or they're covered with the same material as that tight nylon in our skimmer bags. Well, we add a white powder through the skimmer called diatomaceous earth. It looks like flour. It's crushed up exoskeletons of little sea creatures of 1,000,000 years ago. But if you looked at it under a microscope, it looks like fiberglass. It's very sharp, it's very jagged, a lot of corners, a lot of edges to it. So we add the diatomaceous earth through the skimmer. It gets sucked through the pump, and it coats the grids inside the filter. The grids are just the mechanism to hold the powder, and the powder is your filter medium. As the water passes through those grids, the DE grabs the dust, the pollen, all the fine particles, down to 1 to 3 microns. It's a fantastic filter, as good as you can get. But at some point it gets dirty, and our pressure will go up and our water flow will decrease in the pool. Right now the water is basically going outside in, and the clean water is going to the pool. When we clean your filter, we do something called a backwash. We're going to roll out this blue hose, turn a valve. We're going to reverse the flow of water. We're going to make it blow inside out. And it's going to blow out everything that you filtered, the dust, the pollen, the hair, whatnot. But it also blows out your diatomaceous earth. So each time you do a backwash, you have to recharge the filter with new DE powder. And you're typically going to do that about once a month. All right, now, I don't know if you heard it or not, but our pump just dropped back down to our low speed, and our pressure gauge has dropped all the way down to about 3 pounds. Again, I don't care what this pressure is in low speed. We only use this when we're in high-speed operations. All right, so let's say we're going to do that monthly backwash. We're going to take our blue hose and roll that out. We going? All right, so we're going to put the system in service mode. Over here where the hose is hooked up, this is our backwash valve. And right now, this particular handle has an arrow that's pointing to the word filter. We're going to loosen this screw up a little bit and put this arrow over here to where it says backwash. Okay, we're going to go back to the panel, and we're going to hit filter pump. When the pump comes on, all that water is going to start coming out the hose. Let's walk down here. Initially, the water will come out clear, then it'll look either milky white, it could look brown from the topsoil, it could look yellow from the pollen in the trees. But this particular case, it looks more or less just milky white. We'll let that run until the water coming out looks more or less clear or opaque. And you don't want to get too close to the discharge of the hose, because sometimes it gets a little whippy and can get you wet. All right, so our water looks clear coming out of there. So we'll go back to the panel and turn off the filter pump. We'll come back to the backwash valve and put it into filter position. We're going to come back over to the panel, and what we're going to do now is called bumping the filter. We're going to turn the pump on, let it come to that high pitch that we've been hearing, let it run 5-6 seconds, and turn it off. And we're going to do that 3 times. And the idea behind that is that we're trying to loosen up anything in the filter that didn't come out with that first backwash. All right, so I've got the valve back into filter position. I'm going to hit my filter pump button. These new variable speed pumps, they have their own circuitry, their own boards. They do a self-diagnostic check before they come on. So if you've had a pool before, they do not come on instantaneously. All right, so we've got the high pitch running. I'm going to count to 5 and then turn the pump off. All right, then I'm going to turn the pump back on. And like I said, we're going to do this 3 times. After we do the 3rd time, we'll open the valve back up, run another actual backwash to see if there was anything else that we blew out after the first backwash. All right, that makes 3. We're going to open up our backwash valve again, turn our pump on. We'll see if we get anything come out of the hose this time. Sometimes we will see more discoloration come out, sometimes we won't. It's just a very good practice to get into. So at this point, we're already back to clear water. So we'll go ahead and turn the pump off. I am going to put my valve back into filter position and tighten that screw back down in place. All right, so at this point, we're going to leave the system in service mode. We're going to turn the pump back on, and now it's time to add fresh DE to the system. All right, when we're adding the DE, we're going to add it back through our skimmer, and you can use either one. Couple of things to remember. If it is a very, very windy day, let's backwash tomorrow. If it's real windy, we don't want the DE powder flying all around us. We don't want to breathe it in because it doesn't want to come back out. And we don't want to get any in our eyes. All right, so we basically always want to be upwind from it. Next thing you want to remember is you have to take out the pre-filter bag because this is the same material that holds the DE in the filter itself. Your DE powder basically looks like flour. All right, and you're going to be provided with a scoop from us, and we're going to use 6 scoops of DE to recharge the filter. All right, when you're done with the last scoop, let's just get some water, rinse everything off, rinse the DE down. Put our bag back in and put our ring back in place. Now at this point, the DE is getting sucked through the line, sucked through the pump, and it's recoating those grids inside the filter. At this point, if you look at the pump, you can see a little bit of the milkiness of the DE as it clears through the line. It's going in, it's coating those grids, and my pressure is still running about 16 pounds. In this particular instance, we didn't really need to backwash the filter, but it's for training. At this point, we'll go ahead and just put the system back into auto mode. It'll continue on this high speed for 3 minutes and then drop back down to its lower speed. But at this point, you've cleaned the pump basket, you've added chlorine tablets if you needed, and you've backwashed the filter. So that's pretty much the bulk of your maintenance over here. So besides having our autofill over here in our main drain pre-filter side, we've also got our overflow line right here. So if we get excess rain, it'll come out this hole and come out this pipe. It will vary from pool to pool, but we have an overflow on every job. To remove the cleaner from the pool, you want to take off the wall fitting. This particular model has a catch bag on top. When we're emptying the bag, we want to unvelcro the bag from around the hose. Grab this blue collar, turn it either way about 1/8 of an inch, and it pops out. You've got 2 zippered pouches. Open those up, dump out the bag, hose it down. When you're putting the bag back on, this is the front of the unit, and we want the logo facing forward. So you just simply pinch the tabs in, let the bag snap into place, and then make sure that you Velcro the bag back around the hose. When it's time to put it back in the pool, just drop it in there, reinsert the wall connection, and just turn it a 1/4 turn to the right, and you're locked back into place. Hello again, Larry with Keith Zars Pools. Today we're going to be talking about water chemistry and what is involved now that you are a pool owner. We're going to use our standard 3-in-1 test kit that is included with every job. We test for chlorine, we test for pH, and we test for something called total alkalinity. We typically want to test about once a week. I usually test my pool on Thursdays or Fridays because the weekend is our heaviest usage. If I do test the pool and I get a couple of inches of rain the following day, or if I have a pool party the following day, I'm going to retest the water after those kind of events because a lot of activity, a heavy bather load, a lot of rain, those are going to be things that change your chemistry rather quickly. Now we will be testing using this vial. We fill our water samples up to lines that are explained to you in our directions. But we're going to test chlorine on the smaller side, add some test solutions, compare our colors. We're trying to keep our chlorine level between 1 and 3 parts per million. I'm typically closer to the 1 part per million in the wintertime, 3 parts per million in the summertime when I have a much heavier bather load. We'll then test our pH. pH will be filled to this line. We'll add some solutions, again comparing colors. This time we're trying to keep our pH between 7.2 and 7.6, close to the body's pH. We want the pool to be enjoyable. When you get out of the water, we don't want dry feeling skin. We don't want scale buildup on our tile. All of these things are tied into water chemistry. If our pH is off, it's typically on the higher side. Most of our water down here is alkaline, coming from the Edwards Aquifer. So using acid is quite common. And our pH, if it's on the high side, we will have to add acid to bring that pH level down. All of these tests will be based on the gallons or the size of your swimming pool. If our pH is too high, we have an acid demand test that will let us know exactly how much acid to use to balance the pH. After we test the pH, we're going to test for something called total alkalinity. It's the measurement of all the carbonates, bicarbonates, all the mineral in the water. It is typically on the high side as well, and acid lowers the alkalinity just like it does the muriatic acid. Now the instructions that they are provided, they walk you through every test. They're clear as a bell. You're going to test it in order: chlorine, pH, acid demand test if the pH is off, and then we test for the alkalinity. If anything is out of balance, we're going to correct it in reverse. We're going to start with the alkalinity first. If the alkalinity is balanced, we'll leave it alone. We'll do what the pH says. And then lastly, we'll focus on the chlorine. All right, now when you're going to test the water, you want to make sure that your pump has been circulating, which is typically not a problem for us because our pumps run basically 24/7. You want to get down a few inches for your sample. After a while, you get to be a pretty good flicker, and we want to get our water levels close to those lines. Our chlorine test will be number 1. They tell you to grab solution number 1. All of the containers have the small number here. This is solution 1, this is 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, we're going to add 5 drops of solution number 1 to our smaller vial. In this particular case, the pool was just treated this morning with chlorine, and our chlorine is on a rather high level. Now, this might not be the one that we want to show them. All right, for our chlorine test, we're going to add 5 drops of solution number 1. I'll cap that off. Give it a good shake. You can use the back of your instructions for a neutral background, kind of get an eye on your chlorine level. In this particular case right now, we're running probably around 1.5 to 3.0, which is just ideal. For test number 2, we're going to test our pH. They have you start off by putting in a drop of number 4. Right after that instruction, they tell you that if your chlorine level was over 1.5, we would add a second drop. So at this point, being so close to the 1.5 to 3, we're going to add the 2 drops. Give that a little stir. And then 5 drops of solution number 2. You can either cap it off or just swirl it. Again, use the instructions for a neutral background. In this case, our pH is just a little bit high. Looks to be about 7.8. We like it in that 7.2 to 7.6 area. And when our sample measures 7.8 or higher, it gives us an indicator that we need to add acid. So what we're going to do, we'll follow the instructions. We're going to go to test number 3, the acid demand test. We keep our same sample, and we take solution number 3. We're going to add it a drop at a time, swirl in between the drops, and see how many drops it takes to get this color over to our 7.2 to 7.6 range. So we'll add a drop. As you stir it, or you swirl it, you can see that the color has changed. Now we're dead on with our 7.6. So your instructions tell you that you're going to go to your acid demand chart. We have our gallons on the left-hand side, and we have numbered columns going across. Those are our drops. So in this case, this pool is 15,000 gallons. I used 1 drop of acid to get the color change I was looking for, and my chart tells us that I need 1.5 C or 1.5 cups of acid. So our pH is calling for 1.5 cups of acid, but we still have to test our alkalinity. If our alkalinity is good and in our balanced area, well, we would leave it alone and then add that 1.5 cups of acid for the pH. If I test my alkalinity and it's high, well, acid is going to lower the alkalinity as well. We'll look at another chart to see how much is recommended. If that amount is larger than the 1.5 cups the pH is calling for, we will use the larger amount. So if it tells me we need 1/2 gallon of acid, well, I don't worry about the 1.5 cups anymore because that's going to be included with the 1/2 gallon. All right, so now we'll test our alkalinity. All right, so now we're going to test our alkalinity. We're going to fill the larger vial to the small broken line here, about 2/3 down on the larger vial. This is a little bit different test. They have you start off again with a drop of number 4, 2 drops if our chlorine level had been high. So just like with our pH test, I'm adding 2 drops number 4. We'll give that a little swirl. And we're going to add 1 drop of number 5. This is a nasty dye. I like to open it up over the water, leave the lid in my hand, get down in there and just add 1 drop. If I drip it on anything, I'm getting a lot of the pool water and flushing it off the surface real quick. All right, we're going to mix this up, get a pretty blue color. The instructions now tell you that we're going to add solution number 3 again. Drop by drop, swirling in between drops. This time we're going to count how many drops it takes to turn this solution clear or light yellow. That's how they describe it in the instructions. It pretty much always turns yellow. But we're going to take the number of drops for the color change, multiply that by 10, and that is your total alkalinity reading. Now we want to be between 80 and 120 parts per million for our reading. So I would like to see 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12 drops turn this yellow. We'll just have to test and see where we're at. I just shake my hand a little bit, slowly add my drops. You want to make sure that you're swirling properly. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's trying to turn yellow. Still has a little blue in there. So 12 drops got my sample switched to yellow. 12 times 10, my alkalinity is 120. Now we are at the high end of the ideal scale there. And personally, I like to get it right in the middle, down to 100 parts per million. For adjusting our alkalinity, we have a separate booklet with another chart inside there. We've got instructions for lowering alkalinity with acid if we need to, and we have raising alkalinity if we should ever have to do that. To raise alkalinity, we're actually using sodium bicarbonate or Arm & Hammer baking soda to adjust the alkalinity upwards. We don't have to do that too often because our water is already alkaline to begin with. But if we go through a real rainy period, that will neutralize the alkalinity, knock it down lower, and in turn, we'll have to add some baking soda. But right now, in this particular pool in our chart, our alkalinity is at 120. We want to be, at 130. We want to be at 100. So I want to lower it 20 to 30 parts per million. And for a 15,000 gallon pool, it takes about a quart of acid to lower it 10 parts per million. So in this case, if my alkalinity is at 120, 130, I'm going to add 2 quarts of acid to get me closer to that 100, 110 range. And since I'm adding 2 quarts of acid, that covers the 1.5 cups of acid that the pH was calling for. All right, so now that we've finished our basic tests, we know that we need to add 2 quarts of acid or a half gallon of acid. Now what you want to do when you add acid or any chemical to your pool, you'll go back over to the equipment pad, put the service mode into effect. We can kick the pump on because it'll run at our higher RPM. We'll turn on the Polaris or whatever pool cleaner you have to act as the spoon that's going to stir everything up. Now, depending on how much chemical we do add, there might be a downtime before you start swimming. In this case, our 15,000 gallon pool needs a half gallon of acid. We're going to kick our pump on the high speed, turn on our Polaris. Anytime we add our chemical to the pool, acid in particular, we want to be at the deeper part of the pool and adding our acid in front of a jet. That's going to help get it dispersed quicker.